Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spotlight stage. I'm the host, Mark, and I'm with SAS, and I'm so happy that you're here. If you're standing out there, come on in. We got some room. But this next presentation, we'll get right on with it, are my friends Casper and Dan from SAS, and they're going to talk to you about SAS Speedy Store. So turn it over to you guys.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending the session. We're extremely excited to talk about SAS Speedy Store, but before we get into the details about what Speedy Store is, let's talk for a moment about the challenges. So when I was a data practitioner for a very long time in the database management world, there was always a huge issue with transactional databases and analytical databases. So the whole OLTP versus OLAP conundrum. And it causes a lot of problems. And traditionally over the years, a lot of people I think feel like cloud has solved a lot of that. But I was in an excellent session yesterday from David Geyer talking about chronic diseases and chronic disease information. And he was telling me that even to this day, he has certain loads and transfers between databases that are taking an entire day. So here I thought this was a problem of 25 years ago, but having a variety of different databases that are architected differently and having to move data between them to be able to do analytics and AI is still a very pressing concern for our customers. And as you can see from these things listed, it causes a lot of issues for organizations. It's costly, it's extremely inefficient, it leads to not being able to scale properly as you're trying to bring a lot of concurrent users on because you're constantly shuttling data around instead of actually doing what you're trying to do, which is analytics and AI. So if you're not familiar with Single Store, what is Single Store? So Single Store has a very novel approach to database architecture. And what Single Store has done is they've combined all the benefits of a row store in-memory database with the benefits of a memory and column store, so columnar database. So you get all of the benefits of a OLTP database for transactional purposes and also for OLAP for analytical processing. So this is a hybrid architecture that they offer that gives you the best of both worlds. Why we're so interested in this and why we've partnered with Single Store is because this is the optimal environment to do analytics. So having one database that you can run all of your analytical and AI workloads is really nirvana for us. So we're extremely excited about it. So what is Speedy Store? Speedy Store is an OEM partnership that we have with Single Store, bringing of the full power of SAS Viya with the full power of Single Store in one offering. And as we mentioned, we're going to get into details in a moment about what some of the benefits are, but it is by far the fastest and most efficient way to run analytics and AI in your organization.
Just pause there for a second.
Absolutely.
I mean, we might as well talk about the elephant in the room, and it's not me for a change. Speedy Store, does anybody remember we had something previously called the Speedy Server, the SPD server? Yeah, we do. And that's a beautiful thing about we still have Goodnight very, very close to us and what we do. So there is a historical reference to the Speedy Server to Speedy Store. Just like the Speedy Server, and quite a few of you still have it, and it's a fine-tuned, super, super fast data engine. And that's actually the same concept with the Speedy Store that we have. It is fine-tuned, and when it's up and running, it is super fast. We'll get into some of the details. Otherwise, Single Store has their own booth in the corner over there. But yes, there's some historical reference exactly to that, why we have named it Speedy Store.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Casper. So why SAS with Speedy Store? So there's quite a few benefits, and we've kind of grouped them into a couple of major benefits. The first one being data acceleration, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Just being able to increase the velocity of data, right? So if you remember your V's of data, volume, variety, veracity, et cetera, of data. This accelerates the velocity of data movement. Cost reduction on a variety of levels because you're actually saving costs in data transfer and also in compute costs. Because one of the things about Single Store that makes it really, really favorable for this is that the compute happens in Single Store, so you're not paying one price for storage and another price for compute. The compute's actually happening in single store. And then using it as a platform to be able to build your own analytical applications, right? So using SAS Speedy Store to be able to build apps off of that for a variety of purposes, including agentic AI, which we've been talking about all week. And then all this leads to being able to do analytics and AI better, right? So being able to get more people access, more people scaled up on it, especially high number of concurrent users, and being able to do extremely complex analytics and AI under one roof. So Casper, as head of EMEA data and AI, and you spend all your time with our most strategic customers, give us some insight as to some of the challenges that they have and how this might benefit them.
Yeah. Happy to. As Dan said, I'm blessed to travel around the world and speak to a lot of your customers. And the slide you saw before the four areas, the one I'm getting challenged with and the one that we see quite a lot is the whole cost. I mean, we are all in different stages in the whole cloud journey, and we are finding out that cloud is not cheap. It's not. And if you do it wrongly, it becomes very, very expensive. And we are part of that equation, so we take full responsibility for that, but that is why we are focusing so much on this area. Even though Single Store and the Speedy Store is new, the name is new, Speedy Store, but this is actually a partnership that's been going for more than 3 years on. And right now, I'll put my neck on line here. This is the only database out there that is optimized, fine-tuned to run your SaaS workload, period. That's what it is. There are other databases we can read and write from, no question at all. We can coexist with those. And it is a coexisting battle. We'll get a bit into that one a bit later. So there's cloud wars, there's data wars, but this is about coexisting and make use of the right tools to run your analytics workload. And that's really what we're trying to emphasize and work on here today. And I said cost is one of the big drivers. There are some great examples on how we see the infrastructure. We'll get that to the next slide, so I'll probably pause on that one, but I'm super excited about that part and this new product that we have. But as I said, this is just a marketecture we found out. I learned a new word today, marketecture, so that's a marketing architecture slide. It's not a logical one, but just to show how it actually incorporates it. This is not new. We've done this for the past 3 years, so it's just a lot mature, more solutions that we are happy to share with you.
Perfect. Thank you, Casper. So let's talk about the first pillar there, data acceleration. So how does this accelerate data? So by being able to put everything into a single data store, all the data being available there means you don't have to shuttle data back and forth between systems every time you do an analytical query. We have many customers, and Casper can attest to this, that on a day-to-day basis, they're constantly having to do core ETL work just to be able to run an analytical query, right? When you have everything in one place, you don't have to worry about that because all your data that you need for analytics is in that one database. This can be deployed either on premises or in cloud, so it depends on your preference. And go ahead, Casper.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is not to be underestimated. Just like VIA, it is a hybrid, a true hybrid. So we do have customers that need that privacy of that data on-prem in their own private data center, private cloud. This database has the same flexibility, and that's why we've chosen this one. Not everybody is cloud only. There is a hybrid between, and some of that data, either for sensitive governance reasons or whatever, compliance reasons, we need to keep that close at heart. And I said we have regions across the world where we don't have the luxury of data centers just around in our backyard. So the on-premise one, and we see a lot of these hybrids, sensitive data on your own data centers, and then you have the scalability, the flexibility, and the innovation up in a public cloud. And that's why this is so perfectly fitting for the VIA platform.
Absolutely. And that hybrid architecture that we talked about a few minutes ago that enables all this to happen, that becomes the perfect architecture for scalability and for building apps. We're going to get into some actual use cases to talk about these benefits in a moment, but let's talk about cost reduction, the second big pillar there. And there's a variety of ways that this reduces costs. So I mentioned earlier that you've got compute and storage happening in the same database, as opposed to many of our cloud customers that as they're adopting different cloud architectures, they're starting to see a pretty hefty monthly bill for compute costs. Even when storage costs is free, as soon as you take the data out for in particular deployments, that cash register starts ringing for that cloud provider, and that can get expensive quickly. That's one way that it reduces cost. A couple of the other main things is reducing duplication of data. So when you're not having to shuttle data around all the time, you're not creating separate data silos that have to be maintained and have to be synced and reconciled. So reducing data duplication is huge. And then the last one is just the sheer performance. So by being able to do really well-architected compression that is built into the single store architecture and part of the Speedy Store integration with SaaS, the faster time and the faster performance actually leads to lower cost because it's less time that people need to take to be able to do things. So anything you want to add to that, Casper?
Oh, I could talk all day about this slide because this is the cost reductions. As I said, it's all about your data, our data. That becomes so important. And everybody's like, you can pay 10 cents per gigabyte here and there, but it's not just about the cost of it, this one. What we have here is that a very, very fantastic feature called auto-tiering. The system automatically understands and learns your data, where to park it. You got your hot data, the one we're using all the time that need that power and performance. Then you get like the luke or the warm data that sometimes we have to use, of course, the cold data. These exercises that we have been pushing for many, many years probably, but it's not a new thing. We have always had to do this. What's your hot data? What's your cold data? That's how we do sizing. You've probably been asked about that many times when you have a SaaS solutions. But we get a lot of this given. So that's the beauty about this one. The auto-tiering, so great. The compression, it's like an industry standard. Everybody expects it, but it has some great compression capabilities. So we are only not taking everything up into the memory. We can actually do a lot of side in the stomach of the Speedy Store single store, where you do a lot of the filtering, aggregation of the data, and only take what's needed up into the more expensive compute power. So it's not the best slide. Take a picture of it. Once you kind of understand it, it's really, really powerful, and it's what we see, the test we're doing, some huge savings in infrastructure, up to 50% savings in infrastructure if you are a heavy cache Lighthouse user, VA, Model Studio, and so on. Also, your file system, we see more than 50% sharing or savings in your file system. So it's underestimated how powerful just for that simple reason it is. Then we get the other benefits as well. But
all right, I'll try not to get offended about that. It's not the prettiest slide, but anyway, we can move on. Thanks, buddy. And so, what does that mean for building data apps, right? So the main message here for building apps is that it doesn't matter what you currently have in your environment. Be that Kafka, be that if you're a Spark Iceberg shop, or you're using one of the cloud hyperscalers for change data capture in and out. It doesn't matter because Speedy Store links and hooks and integrates with whatever either the source or the destination is to be able to create that single platform for analytics, for being able to do some level of transactional processing, and all running on one single engine that's architected for that purpose.
Yeah. So this also highlights, the flexibility and how it works with already current investments that you've done. This is not a battle about, who wants the data and still data. We're not trying to compete with the likes of Snowflake and Databricks. We have relationship and partnership with those as well. But it's also important, as I said previously, we got one engine here that is designed and optimized for the SaaS workload. Some of the one claims that. I'm sorry, but that's not true. There's a lot of refactoring, recoding if they want to take on that workload. This is optimized. This is how you speed up your existing investments. And you see the coexistence. The whole CI/CD is underestimated. It's underestimated again, how we speak with the change data capture. So it's really, really a good fit for the existing investments already done, whatever the strategy is. This is just built and fit for a specific purpose to coexist with all the other ones you see around.
Yes, sir. And then I'll let you continue on here because you're dealing with customers right now that are challenged with being able to have a single platform for analytics and AI.
I can actually say this in one word. This is openness. I mean, I love the SAS 7b file format. It's been going around, and that's a history. It's great, but it's also a bit proprietary. It's all about trying to read the SAS 7b format. It doesn't really work. This is the openness. Once we put it in the single store, it's open, as I said, for all the other investments that you have in your organizations. This is just a relational database with that power, as I said, fine-tuned for SaaS. But the openness, to me, is the most important one that we get once we have data inside. We're opening up for the rest of the organizations and away from the proprietary SaaS data sets. It's what you've been asking for a long time,
yes.
And we really take that seriously, and hence why we have this as well.
Yeah, 100%. I should have mentioned that before, but this whole OEM partnership and the integration with single store and SaaS is very customer-led, this customer-driven. Customers have been asking us to do this for years, so we finally did it, and we're extremely excited that we can offer it to everyone. We talked a little bit before about consolidating different databases and data deduplication. So as anyone who does this for a living knows that it's almost impossible to integrate data for analytical purposes without creating duplicates of it, and without creating, and not only duplicates, but duplicates of the data in different formats and across different architectures that are completely different, so that every time you have to go back to that data, you have to do extensive ETL just to be able to do the analytical or AI job that you're doing.
Yeah,
anything you want to add to that?
From a technical perspective, like you duplicate your data, of course you increase your size, and you're right, okay, that's somebody's IT's problem. But when it comes your problem, your customer's problem, that is when we have this duplicate data set and making decisions on those. That's my biggest concern. Not that somebody has a bigger storage problem, but when we're sitting with this saying, we've been all meetings where like, how do you get to this result? Where do you get that report from? We start defending how we get the numbers out. So apart from the set, we don't have the duplications inside it, but we start to have that single point of the truth. It's an old word, but that's actually what we're trying to achieve here. Not just the optimization from a storage and infrastructure perspective, but we get that everybody's using that same data source, regardless of what tools on top of it. That is the importance of that one.
Absolutely. So let's talk about use cases. So we've got 3 primary use cases that we want to cover real quickly. So the first one is being able to make, and this sounds obvious, but it's still kind of a quantum step forward, is being able to have all of your data available to run whatever analytics you're doing. In this case, we're talking about visual analytics. But again, back to that ETL problem, back to the multiple data stores in different formats. When I did this, as a practitioner, and when I talk to customers all the time, the most constant refrain I hear is, it would be so nice if I could actually do my job, which is analytics and AI, versus being a data jockey all day and just moving data around different systems and dealing with that headache. So just having it under one roof and available for analytics is a huge benefit.
Yeah, as in this is back to the openness set. Get all the other applications to use what we have made inside that one. You see some of the 4 benefits over there. It is really underestimating what it can do. The push down, the minimization of the cache memory sessions going on. And as I said, the whole storage part of it, remember this is also bottomless storage. We can throw in as many petabytes and go and see single store. They have some crazy customers with petabytes and petabytes and petabytes of data in real time streaming and so on. So we are just inheriting that one as well.
Absolutely. So another very important use case is being able to speed up SaaS code execution. So why is this important? Because having it all under one roof means no refactoring. And if anyone has had to do extensive refactoring when they're moving data around, they know how problematic that can be and how time intensive and inefficient it can be. So that's a huge...
I mean, the embedded processes, you've seen this previously. We had also that with Teradata and stuff like that. We just took it over here and again keep on developing. And I'm speaking with the R&D nationals. What do you want next? What do you want next? So that's why we are all asking you, what analytical use cases do you want us to prioritize? What capabilities do you want us to put down? So this is getting into the stomach of the data store before we're lifting it up and using the compute intense and more expensive storage. So this is just the start of an evolution you will see. Absolutely.
Perfect. And then we mentioned this briefly earlier, but another really important use case is just being able to scale concurrent users, right? So this is it's not a particularly sexy problem, but it's an incredibly daunting problem when you're trying to scale up a huge number of users on big data for very complex analytical workloads. Being able to do that in a more efficient way saves time, it saves money, it improves productivity enormously, and it lets you do more explorative analytics and AI as opposed to moving the data around.
Yeah. We only have 1 minute left, so I said, this is what we want to keep as small as possible by using this. That's equal money, a lot of money saving.
Yep. And that is SaaS Speedy Store, and the main takeaway is being able to actually do analytics and AI quicker without having to move around a lot of data. Before we let you go, one thing we wanted to mention, if you want to see more detail about this, Kyle from Single Store has a session this afternoon at 3.
3:20,
3 or
something like that,
3:30.
a super demo. So yeah, go into that, and right, it says it's here. It's
And
right
this
now.
this is not future technology. This is available right now. So
Yeah.
if you're interested, please seek one of us out, and we'd love to talk about it. We also, if you want a little bit more detail, Casper and I have a breakout session tomorrow morning at 10:30. If you're semi-ambulatory at that time tomorrow after our celebration tonight, we'd love for you to come by and see that. So thank you. Thank you very much for coming
you.
today.